What's up everyone, this is Justin from Make Supply, and this video will be a build-along tutorial for a simple gosseted clutch. This template is a free PDF download available on our website, which is linked in the video description below. The PDF set comes with an option of 3 different styles to make your clutch. So if you'd like to follow along this build-along tutorial, go ahead and grab the template set from our website. So let's get started with inventory. Okay, so let's start with inventory. If you've never seen any of the videos I've done before, I use very basic tools that you can find online or at a craft shop. If you have a more advanced version or a different version of any of the tools in the video, feel free to use them. I'm going to discuss the leather choice and the templates right after this, so this will just be for the other tools that we'll be using in this video. Okay, so I'm going to be using a number 2 X-Acto knife, CS Osborne scratch awl, some Leathercraft cement, 5-Ings Leathercraft cement, wing divider for marking stitching lines, 18-inch corkback ruler, some various binder clips to hold the glued pieces together. I'm going to be using, this is 0.8 white tiger thread, 2 John James Sadler's needles with a block of Leathercraft wax if you're going to be burnishing edges. For this video, we're going to be pre-punching holes. It's a slightly different method that I've done in the past. You know, feel free to use your own hole markings and tools, but for this, we're going to use the pre-planned holes that are in the template, pre-punching, which you can use a diamond awl, which is this Vergès Blanchard awl, or a single tooth stitching chisel. This is a Kaioshin L stitching chisel. For cutting the strap that wraps around the body of the clutch wallet, I'm going to use this generic strap cutter. And for cleaning up edges, I'm going to use this Dremel with a sanding bit on the top. For edges, I think I forgot, yep, the Saiwa edge beveler. And over here is just a couple pieces of scrap leather. Underneath is a marble slab from Tandy, and this is just to punch the holes into. I will link to all of these things and where you can buy them in the description in the blog post for this video. Okay, so let's move on and look at the templates and the leather. Okay, first we'll look at the leather I'll be using today in this video. This is a natural veg tan Italian horse front, Avancorpo from Cordovan.co. It is roughly 3.5 ounces. Has a nice flexible hand to it. I did a review probably about 2 videos ago on this leather. The other leather I'll reference just because I'm going to bring these completed templates, completed clutches into the video a couple times. This is I think it's some kind of Crazy Horse variant from Acadia Leather. I'll find exactly what I bought and I'll list it in the blog post. But you know, it has a nice pull up to it. This is a little bit thicker, probably a solid 4.5 ounces. This design works fine for, you know, a slightly thinner leather or a thicker leather. Okay, so now let's take a look at the template. So when you print out the PDF, it'll come out something like this. 4 pages. There'll be 3 options for designs. This design is this one. This design over here is for this one. And the one we're going to be making today in the video is this full flap design. So you can choose from all 3 of them. The rest of everything else is the same. And then you'll also have the gosset. your printout will probably have a little bit more instructions on here than it does now. But as you can see, it has the shape, and it also has a bunch of predetermined holes on here. They're roughly 4.5 millimeter spacing. So if you want to use these holes, which we'll be doing today, you can see that they match up perfectly with the Gossets. Okay, so I recommend printing it out on as thick as cardstock paper you can get. I got this cardstock from Staples. It works really well and handles well. And up top here, you'll see a couple hole markings and then a bar line. So that is for attaching the strap. Here's the stitching holes, the hole where the line hole where the strap comes out of, and how it attaches on the bottom. I tried to keep this design rather simple, so you can get creative and you can add snaps if you want. You can add a button stud closure. You can customize your own wrapping strap here if you want, or you can even add a complete inside section to this. It's up to you. There is no template piece for this strap. All this is a 3/8 inch, 26 inch long strap. You can go shorter or longer. It's just kind of where I ended up on these. But we'll discuss that later. Okay, and here is what the paper templates look like when they're cut out. This will also be your first step to cut whatever one you decide to make out. Okay, here's all the pieces. As you can see, since we're going to use this one, I'm going to leave this here. As you can see, all the holes match up with the Gosset. So if you're pre-punching all the holes like we're going to do today, you have everything ready to go. All right, and also available for purchase is the acrylic version. So this is the same thing as the other templates, but you get a nice heavy-duty acrylic template to trace around. Again, same thing, has all the holes marked, and you can choose from whatever design you want, or if you want to purchase all three, you can do that. This is actually a pretty quick template, pretty quick build as far as a product goes. You know, it's good for craft markets or anything where you sell your goods. All right, so link for that will be in the blog post, which will be linked in the bottom of this video. So let's get started, and our first step will be to trace this template onto our leather. Okay, so you went ahead and cut out your template and your Gosset. Now we're ready to roll. All right, just find a nice spot on your leather. And I'm going to trace using my scratch awl. But first, I'm going to go ahead and mark all the holes on both sides and the top here, and as well as mark the outside boundaries of the bar here. That'll be where we cut out our line. So I'm going to do that first. Okay, so I went ahead and traced my outside panel. Now you're going to trace your gusset. You need 2 of them. Okay, went ahead and traced both of our gussets and our body panel. Next step will be to cut it out after getting a drink of water. Time to cut. All right, grab my X-Acto knife and my ruler. And just cut around the outside. It's very tough to deal with. I'm trying to figure out a way to keep this on camera, but keep myself out of the frame here. Okay, put this off to the side for a sec. I'm gonna make this easier on myself and just get this. Okay. Okay, so we have our pieces cut out. Now what I'm going to do is go back to the marking up here where I have those 3 dots where I mark the outside points of that horizontal bar. I'm just going to connect them with the ruler here and cut a slit. Just like that. So that'll be where our strap fits through. Okay, so our next step is going to be to cut a strap to fit through there. All right, so I'm gonna grab my strap cutter. You can use a ruler for this, you don't need a strap cutter. So yeah, it's about 3/8 of an inch, and that's gonna be the strap width. I went ahead and just cut a straight edge onto this leather here, as you can see. Just gonna get rid of this. And now I'm gonna cut a strap. I hope this works okay. I hate doing this on soft leather. Okay, got it going. The step is way easier with firmer leather because it just keeps its shape easier. And we got it. So our strap, this one, see how long this is. 23. This one's probably close to 29 or 30 inches, but it doesn't matter. You can make it whatever you want. If your end isn't square, you want to go ahead and square that off. And you'll see here how this fits. That'll fit on there like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take that out and find my scratch awl. So on that last hole there, there's 4 holes. On the last one, I'm just going to poke through a little bit so I can see it on the back. Take my glue and then put a little bit of glue down the middle there from where the slit is all the way up to that hole. Just a little bit though, not a lot. Okay, now I'm going to lay this down and center it. Make sure it's nice and center. Okay. So I'm going to let that glue tack down for a minute and then we'll come back and stitch this on. Okay, so next step will be to punch the holes through the strap. So if you're going to use your own holes, go ahead and do that. Use whatever you're going to use. If you're going to pre-punch with an awl, go ahead and do that. I'm going to pre-punch using the single tooth diamond chisel. I did do one of these with an awl, and I'll show that when I go into stitching the body. There is a difference in the way it looks. The thread and the needles I'm using are a little too thick to reliably use the small hole that this awl will leave. So if you have smaller thread and smaller needles, the awl will look great. But I'm using that thicker tiger thread, and it just doesn't go through as easy. So I'm going to use the one prong stitching chisel. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just put a piece. I'm just going to use this block of wax and put it under here. And I'm just going to use hand pressure. Since this leather's thin and this is sharp, I can just poke right through. Do it on this instead. Okay, so I went ahead and marked 4 holes. Now I'm gonna just stitch that on there. If you need any assistance with saddle stitching, I did a full saddle stitching tutorial like a year and a half ago or something like that. And you can go ahead and check that out. So what I'm going to do is start on the second hole, backstitch once, stitch down to the end, and then backstitch here, and then pull the thread through both sides. So every hole will have 2 loops of thread. Oops. Okay, no big deal. I just wanted the thread to sit a certain way on both sides. So now you can see we have 2 loops of thread on each. You don't have to do it that way. It's the way I'm doing it. And then go ahead and cut off the excess. All right, so now our strap is on there. So I don't know if I mentioned before, I'm not going to be burnishing the edges. I will probably use my edge beveler to give it like a little bit of a round profile when we put the gussets on, but the rest of this I'm not going to burnish. But if you do want to burnish it, the flap and the lip here, you're going to do that now, okay? So go ahead and do your burnishing if you like, because next will be to mark the holes and to stitch it. Okay, so our next step is going to be to pre-punch all of our holes. I didn't discuss too much why I'm doing pre-punching on this project before, so I'll just go over it quickly here. It's something it's a method I've been doing to punch holes for certain types of projects for like the past couple years. I am a firm user of diamond stitching chisels or pricking irons to go all the way through the leather. It's usually 9 projects out of 10, it's fine. because everything's flat. But then there's projects like this where, you know, once you put it together, such as this, it gets hard to access some of these areas with the stitching chisels because it's not flat. You can, you know, rig it on your table so you have a nice lip to hammer it on, but it's hard sometimes. So a cool way of doing that is when you have nice precise measurements like we do with this design, you can punch all the holes independently, attach it together with a little bit of glue just to keep it in check, and then stitch it together. Another benefit of pre-punching is you get the nice look of the front of a stitching hole on both sides. So sometimes when you punch through your leather, the back might look a little blown out or not very nice. With this, you get the nice look of the front on both sides. So yes, it takes maybe another extra minute or so on some projects, but I think the result is very nice to look at. So that's what we're gonna do here. You don't have to do it. You can go ahead and just attach and stitch it up how you want, but I wanted to go through at least one project with pre-punching. Okay. So if you want to mark your stitching line, I would just put a nice light line right where those holes are. Since you already marked your holes, just put a nice light line. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and stack this scrap leather under here and take my single chisel. You can use the awl like I discussed before. I'm not doing it just because the thread and the needle combination I'm using is a little too thick for the look of that. Oh yeah, I will show this though. I mentioned this before. So let me see if I can get this on camera very good. So this one here, these edges I did here, I hope you can see this. This is done with the awl. So I pre-punched with the awl on this. And it has a nice look on the front and the back of the stitching. This one I did with the diamond stitching chisel. It's a little bit more sunken in because this takes a little bit more material out of the piece, but it also works fine. This looks so if you have a thinner thread and a thinner needle, you can use the diamond awl to pre-punch and it looks good. Okay, so I'm going to use this. So now I'm going to go ahead and punch all these holes. When you're doing this, you have to make sure to keep the same way you would be doing if you use the diamond awl the traditional way. You got to make sure you keep the same angle for every hole. I will punch this. This leather is a little bouncier. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my marble slab. Use this ridiculous looking dead blow mallet. I have a new rawhide mallet coming, but it's not here yet. Okay, so I don't know how easy this is to see. I went ahead and pre-punched all the holes. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Make sure your angle is the same way. And now you're going to go ahead and do the same thing with your gossets. Okay, all done. Those are gossets in our body. All right. So I'm going to move this slab off, get a drink of water, and we'll come back and glue our gossets into place and get ready to stitch. Okay, so let's glue our gossets in place. First thing we're going to do is to crease them. So the way this sits is like this. So you're going to want to go ahead and, with the green side facing up, just fold it in half. Just like that. Okay, so now take one of your gossets, and first we're going to glue this side down. So bring your glue, just remember that the way this is going to lay is like this. So face down, line up your holes like that. And then this is green side up on this one, okay? If you need to, go ahead and fold this a couple times to make sure you're getting it right, do that. Because you don't want to glue this and sew it incorrectly. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on the edge here. Okay, so I'm going to take my needle here and put it through the first hole, and then through the first hole on the other side here, just to line them up. So if you accurately measured, your hole distances when punching and marking, this should all line up very, very on point. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just leave that one in there for a minute. Oops. Line up your edges, and then I'm going to grab the other one, another needle, and put it into the last hole. Just like that. Okay, so now that you know it's lined up well, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some clips. I'm gonna clip one up top and one at the bottom. You can add more. I'm missing almost an entire package of these things. I don't know where they went. So I only have 5. to deal with at the moment, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use what I have. All right, so while that's drying, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so we have our first gussets glued on, so I'm going to let that dry for a minute. Then we're going to come back, flip it up, and glue the other side. Okay, gave that a minute to dry, so now we're going to flip it up and glue in place on the back, just like that. When you're doing this, please remember to not go to the very last hole. So you're going to line up the first hole of this part of the gusset with the second to last hole on the back, right? Because this is going to wrap around once. So this goes to the second to last hole. If you do it to the top hole, all the hole alignment's going to be off. Okay, so I'm just going to take one clip off, put a little bit of glue. This one's a little trickier than the other one. Okay, got that on there. So once that once that dries, you have two options at this point. You can go ahead and stitch this side up or you can go ahead and glue the other gusset into place and have them both done at the same time. I'm going to stitch this first just because I don't have enough clips to like get this done and keep everything nice and organized. Okay, so what I'm going to do is while this is drying, I'm going to get my thread and needles ready. Take a seat for this. Okay. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to start from the back panel here, with this being the front, this being the back, and then stitch down all the way around and up to the edge here, okay? If you need to move the clips out of the way, go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is start from the second to last hole. I'm going to go back stitch over the lip, and then stitch down. Okay, so what I did here was I just backstitched twice. And now I'm going to go ahead and saddle stitch down all the way around to here and then backstitch twice. I'm going to do it off camera just to save time here, and then we'll come back and look at it. Okay, let's look at our end result of stitching on our first gusset. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and trim this thread. Cool. So our first side is done, and as you can see with the pre-punching, your holes will look nice on both sides. They'll look like the front on both sides. Great. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue the other gusset in. Same process as before, make sure it goes into the second to last hole, not the last hole. Okay, so I went ahead and attached the second part of the gusset. I'll let that glue dry for a minute and prep our stitching. Okay. So this time I'm going to start here. I'm going to go from this one, the second to last hole, to the last hole, over the edge, just like that, and then come down. And by the time I get to the other side, the glue should be dry. Okay, so I wrapped around the edge there. Now I'm going to stitch all the way down and around, come back here, and do the same thing as last time. And I'm going to do that off camera, and we'll come back and look at it. All right, went ahead and finished up the other side there. Stitched all the way around, back stitch twice, cut the thread. And we are all done our stitching. So at this point, I guess you could technically be done. I would suggest even if you're not going to burnish your edges, which I'm not going to do today, I normally will, but not on this project for this video, I would recommend sanding the edges just to straighten them up a little bit. You can also see I did that on, I did it on these other wallets. So this is a chrome tan leather, so I can't actually burnish the edge anyway. But I just went ahead and sanded it and kind of rounded it off. Just gives it a nicer look. Gets rid of any of the excess glue. So I'm going to do that with my Dremel here. Ugh. Leather dust everywhere. Okay, so even just sanding like that, if you were to do no more, it looks a little bit better. Let me see how this works. Okay, so that works nice. I'm gonna go ahead and just round off the edge with my edge beveler. Okay, that helps a little bit. I might go over it again with the Dremel lightly. Okay, at this point, you're all done. Got yourself a nice little clutch. See that? Wrap it around. Cool. And those are, again, all three designs you got to choose from. And that will conclude the build along tutorial for the, I think I'm going to call this just a simple gosseted clutch wallet. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. or leave comment on the YouTube video. I keep forgetting to check the comments on the YouTube video, but I'm going to try to get better with that. But you can always email me. I'll respond quicker that way. Thanks for watching.